context, it's finally cooling down a little bit. We have to appreciate the shit while it lasts, because we know that it won't, right? Like, it feels so good right now. I'm wearing a shawl, okay? It's one of those things where, like, I don't need to wear it, but I know that if I take it off, I'll be cold. Yeah. Anyway, I was just thinking about how, like, you can't talk about anything anymore without people thinking that you want something. Now, has there always been people that do things for their ego and performing, doing shit for money, reading off a script, whether that script's in front of them or not? I mean, yeah, of course. But I feel like the internet is really shining a light on just the way that we already are, you know? And so that's why it feels like everything's magnified. So people that question the narrative at all are thought of as, like, really conspiratorial. And some of them, like, really take this to the extreme and they obsess about it, and it's really not adding anything to their life. I mean, trust me, like, I know all about this life, okay? But then there are people that don't question anything, and they just seem even more boring. They seem even more dull. They seem even more, like, robotic, you know? But it's like we've always been this way. But our environment changes our behavior. So there's this kid, and I look at everybody under 25 like they're a kid. There's this kid that, like, he's real popular. He's made quite a name for himself. He's influencing a lot of people to carve up their faces and shit. And this dude is obviously bought and paid for. He's obviously, like, not a real person. You know, like, I just don't think, like, any of these people are real people, you know? But because of him, the language has changed. I'm not even gonna name, I'm not, you know who I'm talking about, I'm sure. Like, if you're familiar with the internet, you probably know what I'm talking about. But he coined this term called looksmaxing, okay? And now you have all these people. I don't want to talk about anything that he stands for, okay? Because it's complete crap. I mean, there might be some merit to it. There's definitely merit to it, which is why he's successful. But because of him, he's influenced people to change their language. So people are saying, ego maxing. That's what most people are doing. I said this in the description of one of my recent videos, disability maxing. Identity maxing. Identity maxing, that's what they've been doing, okay? But yeah, like, he's been able to change the way that people talk so that people think they're more serious about something if they use different language. And you know, I see people that aren't even popular, you know, way smaller channels, you know, comedians that don't have a Netflix special, you know, they're using that language. So obviously it's effective. But yeah, it's like everything's a damn performance. And if you're not performing, people think you're still performing, you know? But it's really because, like, say I'm talking to a girl named Rachel. And this isn't against bitches named Rachel, okay? That's not why I chose this name. In fact, I don't think I know anybody named Rachel that I have an issue with. I just randomly chose that name to illustrate my point. Say I'm talking to a bitch named Rachel, and this bitch named Rachel is really, really narcissistic. Say there's a bitch named Cindy. Rachel doesn't like Cindy. Rachel really doesn't like Rachel, but she doesn't know that. So she thinks that she doesn't like Cindy. Cindy's in a bad situation. I empathize with Cindy. Because Rachel doesn't have much empathy, if any at all, she thinks that I must be performing. She thinks there's no fucking way that I could possibly feel sorry for Cindy. Okay? I've noticed the reaction that people internalize. Okay? I'm pretty good at that. I'm pretty good at hearing people's thoughts. It's not... There's a term, it's a schizophrenic term, it's called thought broadcasting. Where we're worried about our thoughts being broadcast. But the thing is though, if you pay a lot of attention, and you know we do, if you pay a lot of attention to human behavior, you will see other people's thoughts being broadcast just through their facial expressions and their body language. And if you're really good, you can pick up on that energy before you even have to speak to these people. Okay? But anyway. So because Rachel doesn't like Cindy, she assumes that anybody that likes Cindy is lying. Okay? Because Rachel spends every day, all day, lying to herself. She doesn't understand that another person can have a genuine emotion about somebody that she thinks she doesn't like. Okay? So really, how you perceive other emotions is how you are emotional yourself. So if people don't have empathy or humility, they just assume that other people don't really have that. You know? There's no way. If other people lie, or if other people are honest rather, then like there's no way. Like they assume that everybody's like them. And if they're not like them, they really fucking hate them. You know? Because they don't operate with the same lack of morale. can't say anything positive about that person. They don't believe it. You know? And I can always tell when somebody doesn't like me. I can always tell, like, if somebody thinks I'm full of shit. And I can't help but notice that all these people don't have much empathy. You know, not just towards me, but towards anybody. So it's no surprise that they don't like me, because I have something that they don't understand. And, you know, as much as I don't want to be around these people, I've trained myself to just study them, you know? I've trained myself to, like, you know, try to understand their mindset. Okay, so I was thinking something this morning, like when I woke up, I was like, oh my God, like, this perfectly explains why I have the feelings that I do about everything. So I don't know what happened the first couple weeks of my life, because I'm adopted, if you didn't know. Many people would say that shit doesn't matter, but they're totally wrong about that. That shit's crucial, actually. And I was in the foster care system, so I think it was like some Catholic family took me in, which, you know, obviously we don't trust that shit. It was like a charity, like a Catholic charity or something, which, you know, when my parents told me that, I was like, oh, that explains the questionable transgenderism. But yeah, like, your body remembers things that happen to you at a very, very, very young age. And when you're first brought into this world, it's kind of sort of crucial what happens to you, because you're literally getting introduced to the world. And so I'm pretty sure that whatever happened, they must have dropped me on my head a number of times, because one of the main causes of the schizophrenic brain is being dropped in your head. Now, I was thinking about that in relation to frontal lobe damage. A lot of people that have frontal lobe damage turn into narcissists, or sociopaths. They have a smaller amygdala. Now, if you experience, like, trauma, it reshapes your amygdala. So, like, we are literally treating all this stuff completely wrong. Like with medications. Like, medications, the reason why I'm so hardcore against it is because altering the chemicals in your brain is not going to alter your brain structure. You know, you got to go see a neurologist. And not only that, but it's like with therapy, it's like therapy can only go so far. So if you have significant brain damage because of something that happened to you, whether it happened to you when you were a child or a baby, you know, or it happened, you know, later on in life, maybe somebody held you at gunpoint or something like that, and, you know, you have this trauma that's stored in your body, it reshapes you, dude. It reshapes you. I mean, everything reshapes you. That's why, like, your environment is so important. And most people aren't taught to study their environment. They're not taught to, like, ask themselves questions, and especially involving authority. Like, it's not just authority that other people have, it's authority that you have over yourself. So, yeah. Anyway. The whole phone culture, it's really, like, changed the way that people behave. You know, it's turned everybody into an addict. And you cannot deny this. Anywhere you go, like, you're going to see a lot of people that are proving that they're addicts, and they don't care that they're addicts. But it's like, if they're lied to, if they're consistently lied to about everything that they do, and the stuff that they put in their bodies, and the stuff that they put in their hands, and the stuff that they put in their heads. If they're constantly being lied to by the governing authorities, and by people on TV, and their favorite celebrities, and their favorite athletes, their favorite musicians, and all that, if they're constantly being lied to, and then their parents believe a lie, and then the education system is teaching them a bunch of crap, okay? And they're not taught, like, hey, you can figure this out for yourself. You know, there's a library down the street, you know? Like, they're not taught to do anything themselves